I'm a 31-year-old guy who has started multiple farms. I get millions of dollars in revenue from the farms each and every year. Depending on who you are, 31 years old might be too old or too young. I mean, if you're 20-year-old or if you're 15 years old, a 31-year-old looks like, someone who is really grown up. If you're 40 years old or 80 years old, someone who is 31 looks really young. But as much as I know, not so many people have actually done what I have done. On this farm where I am right now, I have the capacity for 10,000 chickens on this farm. That means I can produce about 8,500 eggs each and every day on average. On the bigger breeder farm, which is 400 acres by the way, there I have capacity for 60,000 chickens. That's a really huge capacity. And over there I have over 400 goats and sheep. I mean, at some point there were over 800. I also do have another farm around right here, probably about 6 kilometers from here. And that's a goat farm that I'm still constructing. It's probably about 20 acres. And that should have the capacity very soon of over 300 goats and sheep. You can see right now in the background right there, I do have some goats that I'm keeping around. I'm supposed to be moving them to the goat farm. And I used to be a medical doctor, but I left the profession. It was a very wise decision that I implemented for me to leave the profession because it turned out to be better than I could ever have imagined. Now, of course, I could certainly have become rich while being a doctor, but it would certainly have taken me time. But number two, it wouldn't have given me the ability to do what I want, whenever I want, from wherever I want. I mean, it's a Thursday morning right now, and I'm on my farm. I mean, recording a video, doing what I love, sharing with you guys. If I was working as a doctor, I would be in a hospital somewhere, working on some patients. I don't know if I would be enjoying it or not, but as much as I know, this is certainly way more satisfactory for me than what I would have been doing outside there. Now, I know a lot of you other people are probably not being doctors, but you want to have this kind of life that I'm having. So how on earth do you become a wealthy young farmer? Well, in today's video, I'm going to be sharing this with you, so stick around right through to the end. So the first thing I did was sacrifice my degree. Yes, I had to sacrifice my degree. Now, when I graduated, you study for quite a number of years for you to become a doctor. Can you imagine how many years you have to study to graduate as a doctor? I think by the time I finished my training, I should have been, around 24 years of age. And usually we start school when we are 3 years. So imagine, 21 years of school for you to become a doctor. So that's a lot of time and effort that goes into getting the degree. And a lot of people think about it and they're like, whoa, how the hell can you study for 21 years and then just leave the entire thing right there? I mean, this is the same exact thing that I keep getting from a lot of people. They just keep imagining to themselves that, how do I study for 21 years and I leave what I have studied? Well, I'll tell you something, guys. For me to decide to be a doctor, I probably decided it when I was 16 years of age. Now, 16 years of age is not a very good age for you to make a decision that's going to affect you for the rest of your life. You're still young, you're an adolescent, you have lots of hormones affecting you. You really don't know how to make the decisions that make life. But the way the education system has been designed is that you have to make decisions that are going to affect you for the rest of your life while you're a teenager. Does that even make sense at all? I personally think that's really crazy. And so I personally was willing to take the risk and, just run away from the profession and just dedicate myself to doing what actually makes me happy. I've decided to be a doctor at 16 years of age. When you're thinking about being a doctor at 16 years of age, you don't even think about the fact that this is a decision that's going to affect you for the rest of your life. The only thing you think about is that, whoa, I think I love the idea of being a doctor. I love saving lives, and I hear that doctors earn a lot of money. So why not? I mean, why not do it? And you choose the profession. But hey, it's going to affect you for 80 years. I mean, the rest of your life, or 90 years, the rest of the life you're going to have is going to be dependent upon that one decision you made because a friend of yours also decided they want to become a doctor. Or maybe because you dreamt about it when you were young. Or maybe because you saw someone wearing a stethoscope and you're like, whoa, I think that machine is really cool. I feel like the decisions we make that are going to affect the rest of our lives should be made at a point where you can really think properly about it. So I had to sacrifice that. So if you're going to want to become wealthy, really wealthy, even if it's farming or it doesn't matter the path, you need to think about the fact that you might have to sacrifice the things that you've held dear for a really long time. Forget that degree, just throw it away. I know you've put in quite an amount of time. You put in probably 20-something years, 18 years of studying for that degree, but you have to let it go. It's something that I did have to do, and honestly, I'm so glad that I did. I love being in here, guys. And just look at the bananas. This is a plantation I planted, I think, 3 years ago. Yeah, something like that. It has been giving us bananas. Now, bananas are actually my staple food, and I do love them. I mean, for us here, we call it matoke. Now, there's so many different types of bananas. In this plantation, I think I have about 3 or 4. There is, you know, the usual bananas that we eat, we call it matoke. Then there is another one, it's called chivuvu. It looks quite strange. I'll show it to you guys. This one right here. You can see it. I mean, you can see how different it looks from the other bananas. You can see it right here. It's quite tasty when you do cook it. Very, very tasty. And the next step would be, you have to be ready to do is to save, and save a lot. If you want to become a wealthy young farmer, what you need to remember is that farming is a very capital intensive business. Very, very capital intensive. I didn't start out like this, honestly, I didn't. Currently, as you can see right now, I'm standing on about 3 acres of land. I have a 400-acre farm. But when I started out, I was using my dad's land. Yeah, I was using my dad's land. But even then, I had to invest. I mean, despite the fact that I was using my dad's land, I had to invest. What does that mean? I had to build chicken houses, I had to buy chickens, I had to buy chicken feed. It probably cost me maybe about $9,000 of money that I had put in until I got any money coming back. That's actually quite an amount of money. Not everyone can access $9,000. I was lucky enough that I was working as a doctor and I could have saved, you know, I really saved, but not everyone can do that. So you have to save money. I mean, you've got to get money, put it aside, be dedicated to saving. Save as much as you can. It's a capital intensive business, and like I always tell people, it's not wise that you start a farm on a loan. You can borrow money and utilize it to start your farm, but it's not the best thing. It's actually a terrible idea. Why is it a terrible idea? In case something goes wrong, you're in debt with the bank. And do you know how crappy it is to be in debt with the bank? I mean, they can come and take your stuff, they'll come and take your house, they'll come and take your everything. You'll find a big note on your house. This is for sale, to recover bank loan money. You know how embarrassing that is? That's really crazy. So just don't try it out. I mean, just don't go to the bank to borrow money to start a farm. No, I don't advise you to do that. You can borrow money from a bank to expand a farm, and I've personally done that before. Actually, twice before. I went to the bank and borrowed money to simply expand my farm, you know, buy more chickens, expand my chicken house. I went and did that. But to start a farm, no, don't. So save as much as you can from your earlier years, because then the opportunities won't pass you by. The other thing you have to do is think smart. You've got to think smart. What does think smart mean? You've got to think in terms of opportunities and analyze the opportunities. For me, when I started out, of course, I didn't start out like I knew exactly what I wanted. It's not like I woke up one day and I knew that I want to do poultry farming. No, that wasn't it. I woke up when I knew at a particular point that I want to start a farm, because I had done a lot of research. I'd read as much as possible. And the idea of farming felt like a good idea. So I decided to start a greenhouse farm. And when I decided to start a greenhouse farm, I went and met this guy who was a greenhouse farming expert. And after we had talked, you know, for some time, you know, I paid for his lunch and then I had paid him for his consultation. We are parting ways. He gives me like a departing message and he's like, I think poultry farming would actually do better for you. I was like, whoa, this is really crazy. I mean, just imagine like you wanted to buy a car. Think about it. And then you go to this dealership where they sell trucks. You're thinking about buying a truck, maybe a pickup truck. You want to buy a pickup truck. And then you go to this dealership where they sell pickup trucks. Yeah, this guy is an expert at selling pickup trucks. So you go to this dealership and then, you know, the guy shows you around, tells you the advantage of each and every one of the pickup trucks and how nice it is and everything. And then as you part ways, you know, you've told him what you want to be doing. He tells you, well, I think a pickup truck wouldn't be the best thing for you. I think buying a sedan would be better for you. You'd think to yourself, this is really crazy. This guy didn't even sell sedans and he thinks a sedan is best. He's even not telling me about his business. You'd probably sit down and think twice about it. You'd ask him, why do you think a sedan is better for me than a pickup truck? Same exact thing. I was thinking to myself, then there's something I don't know about this. So something happened to me. I told myself, well, if this guy thinks greenhouse farming is not the best, then certainly there should be something in what he's telling me. So I decided to inquire about poultry farming, and I ended up reading and researching and then finding out where the best place could be for me to start a poultry farm. That's where smartness comes in. You decide what is the best place. You know, the reason I came outside here was to check on the beans. You can see beans right here. Now, it's outside my fence, but it's land that's not utilized. Ideally, it's part of the road, but currently that the place is not very modern, don't have a lot of people living by, I can utilize it to grow beans. beans. So I just come to check them out. You can see them all along the length of the perimeter. We planted beans right here. So I just come to check them out, see how well they are performing. Anyway, so when this guy told me about this, I was like, whoa, I'm actually going to try to learn as much as I can about poultry farming. And when I learned it, I decided where to place the farm. I read as much as I can about poultry farming, discovered where the best place for me to start a farm would be, which actually requires a lot of smart thinking because you need to think about the opportunities, the risk and everything. And it actually came up with the best alternative for me. So you've got to think smart. Don't just think like everyone else. When most people are starting their farms, they place them in urban settings or close to an urban setting because you imagine that's where the market is. But if you do your research, sometimes you might notice that a rural setting might actually be a better option. So that's what I did, and well, it has worked out for me. I placed my farm in the village next to my dad's land, and it has worked out really well because then it meant that I could almost monopolize the area around since there were not too many other farmers doing exactly what I was doing, and it has turned out really positive for me. You can see, yeah, the garden of beans. Very beautiful. And then I planted a lot of trees. I mean, a lot of these trees have been planted in the road. You can see the road right here, yeah? But all that is part of the road. Meanwhile, over right there, across the road, I also do have land. But I think the road moves from right there, where the guys have dug, to my fence right there. So it's a wide road, but since it's not being utilized now, I can grow crops there. So I planted trees. You can see them. They are grevillea trees. You can see them. They're about 1 year old right now. They have grown up. Should say, I don't know, is this too quick or too slow in terms of growth? I don't know. I don't care. I planted about 200 of them all around the 3 acres of the farm. And when they grow up, they offer really nice shade to the farm. So I think I'm loving it. I think the beans are doing really good. The advantage of growing my own crops is that then the guys who work on the farm, I don't need to buy food for them, yeah? I can just utilize what I've grown on the farm and give it to them as food. Then the other thing you have to be ready to do is to risk it all. Yes! Now, it's a business, of course. I mean, starting a farm is a business. And what business comes without risk? And the thing with businesses and risk is that the more risky something is, usually the higher the rewards. So the less risky, the less the rewards. Farming is one of those businesses that can be quite risky, but also, historically, farming is one of those businesses that have a very low failure rate. So how much of the risk are you willing to deal with? Yeah? Are you willing to deal with a lot of risk? I personally was willing to deal with a lot of risk. I was willing to work as hard as I can to make sure that I get what I need. You're probably thinking to yourself, what do you mean work as hard as you can to get whatever you need? Usually, the riskier something is, the more hard work you need to put in, because then you need to avert the risk. You need to avert the risk by working harder to make sure that you minimize the possibility of the things that are bad from happening. I mean, it's getting really hot, guys. It's the morning, but it's getting really hot. But well, yeah, so I had to put in the hard work. I personally worked as hard as I could to make sure I minimize this risk. So you have to be ready to risk. I mean, you're young, so understand that you could lose everything, but you could gain everything. And for you to make sure that you don't lose everything, you have to put in as much work as possible to make sure that you have great results. So be willing to risk it all. Now, the other thing you need to do is endure tough times. I honestly don't know anyone who has made it big without enduring tough times. I don't know anyone. Everyone who makes it big usually goes through tough times. Tough times will happen for everyone. The world has never been smooth for anyone. I mean, you'll either have tough times in terms of money, in terms of bad incidences happening on your farm. If it's a farm, then bad incidences could happen in terms of weather. If it's a crop farm, if it's an animal farm, bad incidences could happen in terms of, animals dying or thefts and those kinds of things. They will always come, but you have to endure them. I personally had to endure them. I've gone through quite a number of tough things, yeah? I've gone through people stealing from me. I've gone through animals dying. I've gone through really tough times in terms of having money, not having spare money aside. I've gone through some really, really tough times. So you've got to endure this tough time. If things get hard, really, really hard, you have to understand that you have to endure, because tough times will happen for everyone. Tough times will come for everyone, and it's only the tough people who actually make it through. So don't give up when tough times come your way. Understand that tough times are a point for you to learn. For me, I had to make sure that every time a tough time comes my way, I take it as a learning point to ensure that that does not happen to me again. If it doesn't happen to me again, it simply means that I've become a better farmer. That means that the next time I can do things with better results. I don't need to worry about that same exact thing happening. For example, if I get a disease on the farm because I'm not maintaining biosecurity, I'm letting everyone come in, then what I need to do is build a fence. So I built a fence around my farm, and then that decreased the likelihood of people actually coming in, and then the likelihood of people bringing diseases onto the farm actually decreased, and so I'm certainly a better farmer. So you've got to understand that Tough times are there, they will come, but they are meant to make you and not to break you. And then finally, you've got to specialize. Now, the thing I've noticed about farmers is that farmers love doing everything. Now, you've noticed that I do have chickens right here, and I'm growing some crops around. But for me, the crops are not the main thing. Yeah, I don't put too much effort into them. In fact, there's not a single person who stays on the farm whose work is to look after the crops. No, all the work that's done on the crops is literally done by contractors. They come do some work and go out. Everyone who is here, their work and their commitment is towards the chicken, and that's the main business. You'll find a farmer looking after chickens, looking after cattle, looking after goats, looking after sheep, looking after pigs, looking after rabbits, and they want to make everything the main thing. No, you can't. Even on the bigger farm, I do have chickens, I do have goats and sheep, cattle, but again, the main thing is the chickens. If you've been following the channel, you will understand that the main thing for me right there is also the chickens. That's what I give all the attention, and that's what I make sure I do the very best. The rest of the things are simply additional things, but the main work, the main results that I do get is from the chickens, and that's what I give most of my attention. So don't over diversify, pay attention to one thing, specialize. That one thing is most likely the one that's going to give you the biggest results. You can do very many other things, but don't put too much emphasis on them. Don't try to do too many things very well. You see, if you try to become a master of all things, in the end, you end up becoming a master of none. So try to just become a master of one, and then you will succeed, you'll be excellent, and people will even be calling you for consultations. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, smash the notification bell, that way you never miss out on an upload. Catch you very soon with another video. Lots of love. Bye-bye.